Hello everybody and welcome to Revisiting Disney. This is the series in which every week I grab an attraction or you guys suggest one and I play sort of armchair Imagineer and talk about how I would replace it or refurbish it or just give it a completely new spin. This week's attraction has been suggested many times, and I've avoided it many times because I wasn't really sure how to approach it. And that is, of course, Fantasmic, the fireworks crazy show that goes on in Hollywood studios every night over on Sunset Boulevard. I didn't know how to approach it because I had never done a show before. I've always revisited attractions, and I couldn't think of a way to revisit a show really without just sitting down and writing out a new show, which is not really what I'm good at or do. But I feel like I've got enough of a solid idea that I can safely go ahead and revisit Fantasmic. Now, just as I say in every episode, just because I'm revisiting something like this doesn't necessarily mean I want to see this happen or I want to see the original go away. I actually enjoy a lot of these places and don't want to see them change, but I think it's a fun creative exercise. Anyway, if I were to replace Fantasmic, I would take out almost everything. It would still be a show, obviously. I don't want to just put a ride there. That would make no sense. But I feel like as a show, when you think about the park and the theme of the park, it really kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. It's not really, doesn't fit in. Think about it. Fantasmic takes place at the end of Sunset Boulevard, which itself is an offshoot of Hollywood Boulevard. The entire park was sort of built as an ode to old school Hollywood. And yeah, you can argue that a lot of these animated films that get featured in Fantasmic are part of, you know, the Disney Renaissance and old school Disney. But I think it just doesn't resonate with the original theme of the park. When I think of Hollywood studios, it's funny, I don't think of Disney movies. I think of The Twilight Zone, I think of Casablanca, and all of these films, The Wizard of Oz, everything that you saw featured Star Wars and Indiana Jones, which originally weren't Disney properties. And that's just sort of the mood that I get. And then I thought about it and I realized probably one of my most favorite parts of Hollywood studios is the final montage at the Great Movie Ride, which is itself sort of like a love letter to cinema. It's just it's like a fantastic, awesome montage of all these great old films. Eisner shoehorned in a couple of contemporary films that really don't belong there, but whatever. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we replace Fantasmic with a show that sort of takes up that spirit? Why not make what is essentially a fireworks-filled, action-packed, really cool stage show that is a montage of cinema as we, used to love it? Think of all of these famous scenes and how we could, sort of use special effects and the effects of a show to recreate them. I don't have any specific scenes off the top of my head, but there's so much space to play with, whether you're recreating a famous action scene like a classic James Bond film, or whether you're recreating, a more dramatic scene like something out of Gone with the Wind, or again, Casablanca. I don't know what technologies you would use for something like this. This is really a very vague revisiting because I just feel like there's so much on the technical end that I can't speak to as an expert, so I can't really guess. But I think making a show about Hollywood would be way cooler than a show about like Disney characters and Disney movies, because I think we've got plenty of that. I think the Magic Kingdom has its fair share of Disney characters involved. I think you see them, you see them in Epcot a bit, you see them in the Animal Kingdom a bit, but I think Hollywood and cinema is where you could make a home for a show like this, and that's what would be in Hollywood studios. And now that the Sorcerer's Hat is gone, the park's even less focused on Disney characters, so I think it makes sense in that respects too. But yeah, that's what comes to mind. I picture big, grand scenes. I think we grow up seeing some of these scenes on the big screen, and that's really cool. And I think there'd be something really fantastic about getting to see a recreation of that in real life. Whether it's, films like Rocky or, I don't know. I mean, this would be a great, series in itself, is figuring out what moments in cinema are worthy of being represented in a show like this. How far back do you go for classic? How modern do you go for some of these films? What would you consider to be memorable enough. Seeing the ball rolling down in Indiana Jones, sort of like in Stunt Spectacular, or I don't know, seeing something Star Wars related. I mean, you could get films in there that aren't necessarily Disney characters that are still owned by Disney and still make a good show out of it. So there you have it. I know it's short, and I know it's very vague, but that's what I'd want to see Fantasmic turned into. I'd want to see it replaced with something Hollywood-focused, not Disney-focused, that recreates all of these famous and iconic scenes from cinema in a cool way that makes it sort of like a living, breathing montage. I think that would be really fun to see. And there are plenty of explosive moments in films that you can still work in, things like fireworks. You can still work in all these action scenes, and you could work in cool effects like the water screen. Anyway, let me know what you think. Maybe Fantasmic's perfect and you don't want to change it, or maybe you have an idea for what you would want to put there. I'd love to hear it in the comments below, and I'd also love to hear if you have an idea for something to revisit, because like I said, oftentimes I turn to you guys for suggestions on what to revisit next. Anyway, I can be followed on Twitter at RobPlays. I hope you all have a great weekend. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it, because it makes it that much better, and I hope to see you next time for the next episode of Revisiting Disney World. Bye, everybody.